How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge 5000. I hope you guys are having a great day. As in this video, we're going to forecast the impacts you should see in each area along the East Coast from this nor'easter, which is quite powerful and is only expected to intensify as it continues to head further northward. So first, I want to focus this forecast on each specific area of the Northeast, see when you guys should first experience the impacts when it comes to heavy rainfall, how bad it'll impact each area of Northeast. So let's begin by taking a look at when this should approach the Virginia area first. So we should begin to see impacts right around southern Virginia as early as the midday on Sunday time frame. I'll say right around noontime to the early morning hours on Sunday. That's when you should begin to see heavier rainfall right around Richmond, Virginia, and surrounding areas around the metropolitan area. And same goes for Virginia Beach, where you should begin to see your first bouts of rainfall right around Sunday morning, based on what the latest European model run is stating, and the forecast is very certain for those areas, so you need to be prepared, as the rainfall right around Richmond and Virginia Beach should be moderate at times, and this will extend into northern Virginia, I'll say later on on Sunday afternoon, where the rainfall should be moderate, but I wouldn't say the rainfall for Richmond and Virginia Beach will become heavy at times until the very late on Sunday, right around midnight on Sunday, where we do see the yellows, which represents very heavy rainfall, and this is capable of producing the possibility of flash flooding. So in portions of Richmond and Virginia, as well as Norfolk, you'll definitely need to pay very close attention to this, because this rainfall could be heavy at times and is easily capable of giving a high risk of flash flooding. Then moving on beyond that point, we should begin to see the rain wind down right around Monday morning. For Virginia, we're going to see the heaviest of the rain move northward into the Delmarva Peninsula, Maryland, as well as Pennsylvania and New Jersey, which I'll go into details with those states in just a second. But you still should see heavy wind gusts. In Virginia Beach, you should see wind gusts right close to 50, if not close to 60 miles per hour, and the wind should be the worst right around the Monday morning time frame for Virginia, when the low pressure system is at its closest proximity to you guys, as well as the fact that the storm system will only strengthen as it continues to head further northward. So for many areas throughout the Northeast, the winds will continue to get stronger with this storm system as it continues to head further northward. And moving forward with the forecast, we should really begin to see the rain wind down by the noontime on Monday for much of Virginia. And same goes for the rest of the Northeast. Now, taking a look at the forecast for the areas further northward. So for Maryland, the rain should start, of course, a little bit later as this storm system continues to head further northward. I'll say right around the afternoon to early evening time on Sunday. That's when we should begin to see the first light rain showers right over Washington, D.C., the Baltimore area, and pretty much throughout the Interstate 95 corridor cities just south of New York City. The rain should begin right around, I'll say, the 5 p.m. time frame, where the rainfall should be very light. And then eventually, by the time we approach midnight time on Sunday, going into Monday, that's when the rainfall should begin to be around moderate. I wouldn't say it's heavy, but it's certainly enough to bring a sizable amount of rainfall over a short period of time. So even though the rainfall is moderate, it still could contribute to the overall risk of a major flood threat right up along the bigger river. So you definitely need to pay close attention to that. But for Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, New Jersey as well, southern New Jersey, and into the Scranton area of Pennsylvania and the Pocono Mountains, the winds should be relatively light during the Sunday night time frame. The winds won't really increase until the Monday morning to Monday afternoon time frame, where that's where you should expect the wind gusts anywhere between 40 to 60 miles per hour, and it should be on the higher end if you're closer along the coast, maybe in Long Island or right up along the Jersey Shore, Atlantic City, as well as maybe areas further northward like Long Branch and southward into Cape May. You could see wind gusts over 60 miles per hour, and coastal flooding will be a concern, which I'll go into detail with the coastal flooding in a little bit. But coastal flood warnings are issued all throughout the northeast coast, but the rainfall should really begin to get heavy by the time we approach the early Monday morning time frame, right around 6 or 7 a.m., right around your morning commute, which would definitely be concerning, especially since I'm concerned of the possibility of flash flooding for many of you guys who have a morning commute right around the northeast, especially right up along the Interstate 95 corridor, right around the Monday morning time frame, where we do see the yellows and darker oranges, which represents very heavy rainfall, and rainfall that's capable of bringing a high amount of flash flooding. And then the rain will continue. The winds will increase, like I said, right around the Monday afternoon time frame. That's when the wind should be at its strongest, and we're going to see a strong southeasterly flow, so that will push a lot of the water straight up along the northeast coast to cause a major potentially major coastal flooding in certain areas, where some areas along Long Island or I'll say most areas right up along the Long Island coast, especially in the more vulnerable areas, moderate to major coastal flooding is expected. So you definitely need to take precautions if you live in a very vulnerable area right up along the coast, especially along the sound sides of a lot of these barrier islands, because typically the bay sides are a lot more vulnerable to coastal flooding than the ocean side. So you definitely need to pay close attention if you're in a very vulnerable area. And then the rain should end for much of the mid-Atlantic, such as New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and much of the Interstate 95 corridor cities and the Jersey Shore, and Delmar Peninsula as well, right around Ocean City and Rehoboth Beach. The rain should end by the Monday evening time frame. It should really become late, I'll say right around 3 p.m. on Monday for a lot of these cities, and even a little bit earlier for Baltimore and Washington, D.C. But in total, you should experience 3 to 5 inches of rain right over New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, which is certainly capable of bringing major river flooding, and that rain will fall, like I said, at a very fast pace. Wind gusts in New York City right around 50 miles per hour to 60. For Philadelphia, closer to 40 miles per hour. Same goes for Baltimore and Washington, D.C., because you guys are going to be further inland, so you won't necessarily experience the worst of the wind compared to what the coast will experience, but it's still just strong enough winds that could bring some branches down and could could easily move loose things that are outdoors and make them easily projectiles to your property or potentially other people's properties. So if you have any loose items that are outdoors, maybe Christmas decorations, you definitely want to take those inside, because the winds should be fairly gusty, especially if, let's say, your Christmas decorations aren't very sturdy or hot or highly dense to be able to withstand that wind. But anywhere from 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts for New York City, and 40 to 50 right around Philadelphia and the Interstate 95 corridor cities just south of that. But for New England, Boston, the wind gusts should be stronger, right around 60 miles per hour. You're right up along the coast, and you're a little bit further northward for this storm system to be right around peak intensity for Boston. And in terms of the timing for Boston, Hartford, Rhode Island, and much of New England, you should begin to see the first rain showers approach right around Monday, right around the midnight time, Sunday going into Monday, and then it should become moderate rain right around Monday morning. But the heaviest rainfall will approach New England by the noontime hours and pretty much last all afternoon before it eventually dries up late on Monday. So the time frame is a little bit later for you guys, but again, a large area of 3 to 6 inches of rain should be expected, and wind gusts pretty much throughout the entirety of New England, such as Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and much of Maine should experience wind gusts anywhere between 50 to 60 miles per hour, and I wouldn't be surprised in localized areas you could experience wind gusts over 70. And then after that, we should see a strong northwesterly flow, so we should see the temperatures cool down throughout much of the Northeast. Northeast, closer to average for places like New York City, where it should be 43 on Tuesday, and should be mainly in the 40s for much of the Interstate 95 corridor. But the Great Lakes region, such as Buffalo and maybe portions of Syracuse and even extending into Erie, Pennsylvania, you could experience maybe 1 to 3 inches of snowfall from the backside, and it'll only be enhanced by the lake effect that will enhance the convective activity over western Pennsylvania and New York City. So definitely be prepared for that. Now, in terms of the possibility of Christmas snow, because I was talking about that in my last video for the Northeast, could you guys experience Christmas snowfall? Well, the European model in its latest forecast run does not expect this low pressure system to move as far south to allow the cold air to create more of an unstable environment for much of any area of snowfall to develop. And we do see the jet stream dip isn't as powerful as initially anticipated on the backside of this nor'easter, which means that there's going to be less instability for this low pressure system to work with as it approaches the Northeast. Now, there's still a lot of time for the European model to definitely get the forecasts more accurate. We do see that the hour I'm going at is 156 hours out, so we could still easily see the computer model shift its forecast to where it wants to bring more cold air on the backside of this nor'easter, which would allow this low pressure system to encounter more instability for more convective environment to develop and for an area of snow to develop in the Northeast, which could impact the Pocono mountain ranges, such as the Scranton area, maybe Goldsboro, Pennsylvania, and northern New Jersey could get impacted. Maybe areas like Patterson, Newark, even into New York City and Albany in upstate New York could get impacted if we were to see this develop. However, there just isn't enough instability based on what the European model is currently forecasting. But again, we're going to definitely keep tabs on this. It really all depends on how strong northerly winds will be with this trough. If it ends up being a little bit stronger and we see that this ridge ends up moving a little bit slower to allow the cold air to continue to move to the Northeast, and we'll see a higher unstable environment for a better chance of a snowstorm. But if we see the conditions play out like the European model is forecasting right now, then the chance of a snowstorm is very slim. I'll certainly keep you guys updated. The GFS model is saying much of the same things when it comes to this nor'easter as well as the next potential Christmas snow. So if we were to move forward with the GFS models latest forecast run, let me go to the 18Z run. So the GFS model, like I said, nor'easter forecast very similar. Not really going to go into detail with that. It's pretty much the same between the GFS and the European model forecast is very certain. But with this potential Christmas snow, we do see not enough instability again. There just isn't enough cold air for this low pressure system to work with as it moves off the California coast, and it just pretty much fizzles out by the time this approaches the Northeast. Maybe some snowfall in the Poconos and southern upstate New York, but still not enough to really bring any significant snowfall. But if we do see more instability, I'll certainly keep you guys updated. So make sure to stay tuned as we get more updates with the forecast. Now let's talk about the forecast for the Southeast when it comes to this nor'easter, and we have to take a look at the radar first. So taking a look at the current radar for Florida right now, we do see very heavy rainfall is right over the central and northern portions of Florida at this time. But the heaviest rainfall, believe it or not, still has yet to come for Florida, where we do see the heaviest rainfall is just off the west coast of Florida, where we do see the darker reds and oranges just off the coast, and it's only going to move northward. So places like Gainesville, Lake City, Tallahassee will experience the worst of the rainfall probably right around midnight tonight as the storm system continues to head further northward, where we eventually see that very late into tonight, the heaviest rainfall will move right around the Tallahassee area and the Florida Panhandle cities like Panama City and Apalachicola. I try to pronounce it without messing up. I apologize if I messed that up. But yeah, those cities should definitely pay close attention because the worst of the rainfall is yet to come, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do see flash flood warnings issued embedded in one of these thunder showers. Now, in terms of the future, when it comes to this northeastern and the southeast, I'm talking about the states just south of Virginia now. So continuing to move forward, we do see that right around Sunday morning, the heaviest of the rainfall is right over southern Georgia, southeastern Georgia more specifically. Savannah is experiencing a very heavy amount of rainfall. Look at the dark oranges. This is capable of producing flash flood threats right around Savannah, Georgia, and this is right at Charleston's doorstep here, where Charleston, right around Sunday afternoon, that's when you should expect the worst of the rainfall of high flash flood risk. And the isobars are pretty tightly packed, so the wind gusts will be pretty high as well. Taking a look at the forecasted sustained wind map from the GFS model. So moving forward, by the time we approach the Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon time frame, look at the winds just off Savannah. We should see sustained winds anywhere between 15 to 20 miles per hour, which may not seem like a lot, but the wind gust should be higher than that, where the wind gust should be over 40 miles per hour. And this is going to push a lot of water straight up along Georgia and South Carolina. So coastal flooding is certainly a concern, especially, like I said, on the Bay side. So if you live in Charleston or maybe just south of that, or right around Savannah, you definitely need to pay very close attention to the possibility of coastal flooding, especially right up along the Bay sides. And we do see the winds will only increase by the time we approach the Sunday afternoon time frame, where right around Myrtle Beach, you could experience sustained winds anywhere between 25 to 35 miles per hour and wind gusts over 50 miles per hour. Again, pay very close attention to the possibility of coastal flooding, and the worst of the wind should be Sunday afternoon for much of South Carolina and North Carolina as well. And Monday morning actually should be the worst of the wind overnight on Monday for North Carolina, and we should see a backside where the winds will face from more of a northwesterly direction, and the winds right around Cape Hatteras and the Outer Banks should be sustained right around 40 miles per hour, and gusts, of course, up to 60, with the possibility of coastal flooding. Now moving back to the rainfall to show you guys when you should expect the worst of the rainfall in a lot of these areas. So taking a look, for much of northern Florida, the rain should end by the time we approach the Sunday afternoon time frame. For central Florida, it will be a little bit earlier. The rain should end Sunday morning for central Florida, and then the worst of the rainfall for southern Georgia should be Sunday morning, and then the rain should end by Sunday evening. And then for South Carolina, worst of the rain right around noontime, and then the rain should end overnight on Monday. And then for North Carolina, you should begin to see the first bouts of rain right around Sunday afternoon, right around noontime. The worst of the rainfall Sunday evening before it eventually ends early on Monday. So for Raleigh, Columbia, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, as well as southern Georgia and northern Florida, expect a large area of 3 to 6 to 2 to 3 inches of rain, which is certainly likely to bring a high amount of flash flooding. So like I said, these are where you should, these areas are where you should expect coastal flooding. Jacksonville, portions of Melbourne, Florida, extending into Tampa and Cedar Key. Coastal flood warnings are in effect thanks to a strong southwesterly flow. That's definitely going to push storm surge flooding right up along a lot of these areas. Anywhere between 2 to 4.3 of storm surge is likely, which pretty much means that go over normally dry ground right up along the ocean, add 2 to 4 feet of water on top of that, and that's how much flooding you should see right up along the most vulnerable areas on the coast above normally dry ground. Charleston, a coastal flood advisory is issued. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets upgraded to coastal flood warning based on what we're seeing with these winds, which could gust over 50 miles per hour. Wilmington, coastal flood warnings are in effect. Extending into Norfolk, coastal flood watch is in effect, and then coastal flood warnings are now in effect all throughout the Jersey Shore, extending into New York City and Long Island, where you could expect storm surge flooding right around 1 to 3 feet. And along Long Island, you could experience major coastal flood threats. So you definitely need to pay close attention to that. Ocean City, Rehoboth Beach, also involved with coastal flood advisories or warnings. So definitely be prepared for that if you live in the vulnerable areas along the coast. So here's a forecasted amount of rainfall you should expect throughout the East Coast. So for pretty much this line right here, that includes Charleston, Savannah, just east of Raleigh, North Carolina, annexing into Philadelphia, northern New Jersey, Hartford, Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut, and portions of upstate New York and Maine and New Hampshire. You should expect 3 to 5 inches of rain, which is definitely a lot of rainfall that's certainly capable of producing a high amount of flooding. Atlantic City, right around 2 to 3 inches. Same goes for Baltimore and Washington, D.C., but I expect it to be more on the higher end of that spectrum, closer to 3 inches of rain. And that's certainly enough to bring pretty major river flooding in certain areas, especially since a lot of rivers are already oversaturated from this past storm system that moved through. So you definitely need to be prepared for a high flood risk throughout the East Coast. But that's it for now, guys, and I thank you guys for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe if you do enjoy this video.